Welcome to Soundtown. I didn't like that. No. Hi, and welcome to an episode of GrooveTube. Ooh, that's worse. That's a lot worse. Hello, and welcome to Fine Sounds. Don't worry, I'll work on this uh, later. Anyway, I'm here to explain music theory, and today I'm beginning at its core fundamentals: terms, notes, notations, rhythm, and the key musical elements that make up music and music theory. So what you're looking at here are notes of different lengths. And when you're playing music, you might hold a note for a different period of time. And generally music gets broken up into different beats, and those beats are counted. So what we have here is a whole note, which you will count 4 beats. A half note, which is half that length of only 2 beats. A quarter note, 1 beat. An eighth note, half a beat. A 16th note, a quarter beat. And it will continue on like this, each with half the length of the other. And there are also corresponding rests, which tell you to not play or rest for that same amount of time. A whole rest for 4 beats, the same length as a whole note. A half rest, 2, same as a half note, and so on. So now we're going to go look at what these actually end up being in terms of notes. So we saw as we went to each successive note type that you could fit in twice as many of that next note as you could in the same space that one of the previous note could be played. But those are just relative speeds. The speed at which, say, a whole note or a half note is played can vary between songs. And this is where we get the idea of tempo. You might see in written music something like quarter note equals 120. Well, that would mean that if you divided a minute up into just quarter notes, 120 quarter notes would fit in a minute, which would be 60 half notes or 30 whole notes. And you can figure out what speed something is by using a metronome. So here's a song made of only quarter notes at quarter note equals 120, or 120 beats per minute. Now I'm going to play that again, but this time double the speed, so now it's 240 beats per minute. Well, that's how long a note is played, but what about the notes themselves? What I've shown here is the grand staff, which starts at the bottom with the bass clef, with the letter G on the bottom. That is the note G. And as you go up, you get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And those are the note names we have assigned to each of those ascending pitches. And if you were to play through them, starting with the bottom line, in that bottom set of lines, which is the bass clef, up to the top of that top set of lines, the treble clef, going from G down there all the way to the F up there, it would sound something like this. Now you may have noticed that there are more notes there than just the G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G notes, and this is where we get into the idea of sharps and flats, which are fundamental to the 12-tone system in Western music. The distances between two notes, who are adjacent, is a half step. Now, this is the symbol for a sharp, which, when it is applied to a note, says raise that up 1/2 step. An example of that would be going from the note C to the note C sharp. Now this is the flat symbol, and it's a similar concept, except it is one half step down. Here we're going to go from B to B flat. So you'll see once we go from just the lines of the staff to the symbols of sharp and flat, we have all of these notes. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Now since a sharp is a half step up and a flat is a half step down, we could also call C sharp D flat, D sharp E flat, F sharp G flat, G sharp A flat, and A sharp B flat. The naming just depends on the key, which is something we'll get into later, but as far as a general concept, C sharped a half step to C sharp is the same as D flattened down a half step to D flat. You will notice that there are two half steps that don't have a sharp or flat there, and those are E to F and B to C. Now, because we're talking about half steps, it would technically be correct to call E sharp F in some cases, or F flat E. Same thing for B and C. And this is all situational, but there's no additional named note between these two intervals, and that's something that arose over time as musical conventions developed historically. So in looking at that grand staff that had 2 rows of 5 lines, you saw there's a top and bottom section. This top one is called the treble clef, and its bottom line begins on E, while this bottom one is called the bass clef, and its bottom line begins with the note G. You ever found yourself tapping along with a song and find that there's a regular pattern that seems to repeat? Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's time signature. It describes how the song's movement is felt and gives instruction as to how to play it. So we're going to go through a couple of time signatures and see what they describe and what that means for the song. 4/4 means that each bar in a song has 4 quarter notes. The top number being how many, and the bottom being what type of note. In this case, 4 quarters. And this is an example of how that might sound. Another time signature that's common to see is 3/4. In this case, instead of there being 4 quarter notes in each bar, there are 3. This drives the song in a way that sounds like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So here's an example of something in 3/4. Now there are all sorts of other time signatures, like 2/4, where it's 2 quarter notes in each bar, and this doesn't actually change the length of the notes, it's more just how it is felt. You'd feel this song in 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And theoretically, there are an infinite number of time signatures, and they can be felt in different ways. This is just a general description used for notation. And in parlance, 6/8, for example, would mean 6 eighth notes per bar, which could be felt different ways. One of them could be as 2 groups of 3 eighth notes, like 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just felt in these swinging pulses. Or could be really anything. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Time signature just gives a general description, and really, music can sound like anything. First up, we have accents, and these are markings which denote the way to play a particular note. It could say to play a note very punctuated and short, or maybe very long and drawn out, or to attack it very hard on each note. There are many stylistic ways to play a note, and this will indicate what the composer had in mind. Accelerando, which is often written as excel on a sheet of music, means to go faster and increase in tempo. Now, etymology fans might recognize the comparison with the word accelerate, while for entomology fans, this might bug them a bit. Heh. Allegro, allegro, means quick. Play the music in a bright and quick way. A chord is 3 or more notes played together as one collective sound. The example here is the chord E major, which includes the notes E, G sharp, and B. Another word for the 4/4 time signature is common time. They mean the same thing. And certainly as of the 20th century, this is the most common time signature found in modern Western music. Another word for 2/4 is cut time, which is 4/4 cut in half, hence cut time. Consonance is when musical elements sound good and pleasing together. Something consonant could sound like this. Dissonance is when things sound abrasive, they clash with each other, and they sound unsettling. Something dissonant could sound like this. And that's not to say that consonance and dissonance make a song good or bad. Dissonance can be a very powerful musical element if used to intentionally provoke a sense of unease and disquiet. So, dissonance certainly has its place in music as well. Piano means soft. People often think it means quiet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means soft. Although generally people will be playing these parts more quietly. Forte means strong. It doesn't necessarily mean loud, it just means strong. Although people generally do play these parts louder. Fortissimo, fortissimo, does mean very loud. Melody and harmony are different elements of a piece of music. The melody are the notes that are driving the narrative of the song, while harmony supports it and fills in the overall song. To give an example, I'm going to play a song that has the melody, the harmony, and then the melody and harmony together. The key are the set of notes the song is using. Say we're using the notes of the G major scale, and that G major chord feels like home. It feels where the song is resolved. Then we would say it's in the key of G major. Staccato means playing a note in a very short and punctuated way, where they're very separate from each other. Each note is separated. Staccato! Alright, I'll stop doing that. Probably. Legato. Alright, I'll do it one more time. That's it. Legato means to play notes very smoothly where they flow into each other. It's very much like the opposite of staccato, where instead of separating them, they very smoothly flow between the notes, flowing into each other. Modulation means to move from one key to another. Say we were playing in the key of C major, and then move into the key of E minor, would be modulating between the two keys. In this example, I'm going to modulate from the key of G major to D major. We were talking about sharps and flats earlier. Well, natural in this natural symbol counteracts that. Say we were playing a song and at the beginning the notation instructed us to play Fs as F sharp. Well, If you saw this symbol, then that would mean play that F as F, not F sharp, F natural. A phrase is like a distinct idea in a song. Say there were a song that had a melody that went like, well, we could say that there are two phrases there. That first idea, and then the second phrase that responds to that first phrase's idea. Pitch is how high or low a note is. Each note, low G, middle C, high F, all of these notes have different pitches, and this can be measured technically using hertz. Ritardando means to slow down. You might see it written as RIT, period, on sheet music. And when you see this, this means start slowing down. It doesn't mean very suddenly, now start playing at a different tempo. Just start slowing the music down. Thought I was going to do the voice again. I didn't. This isn't the one. It's because I don't want you to know when it's coming. It's going to be a surprise. I want to use my last one sparingly and specially. Rhythm is that underlying feel and groove behind a song. Typically, you'll hear it expressed most directly by a rhythm section, which would include things like a bass and drums. Here's an example of some rhythm. A slur is playing one note and playing it into the next. It sounds like a ooh or ooh. You've probably heard trombones do it a lot. The tonic is the first degree in a key, and it's the place where when you play that chord where it's the root, it feels like home. That feels like where the song is resolved. I'm going to give an example here in the key of G major. A trill is rapid fluttering up or down from a note that you're at. It sounds really fun, and it sounds like this. Last is scherzo, which means playful, or jokingly. Now, it doesn't pop up super often and is most commonly seen in classical music. Now, it's not a real fundamental music term that you'd need to know, but I included it for one particular reason. Because this is where I'm using up my last voice. Scherzo! Well, I hope you enjoyed this and found this helpful. I'll be going much further into music theory and much deeper and more complex areas as well, so please do subscribe if you're interested in that. But for now, have a most splendiferous day.